All right. I also wanted to talk about Russia and Ukraine and what to worry about, what not to worry about, what this is and what it isn't. So, the Russia and Ukraine thing, in my assessment overall, is a proxy war on China. Lots of folks are saying that we are using Ukraine as a proxy for us against Russia. And the reality is that if you look at the situation as a whole, there couldn't have been more perfect timing for this to happen against a more perfect foe. They're completely inept and they can't do combined forces. They don't have replacement equipment. Well, they have it and it's trashed. One general I was listening to recently stated that we spend tens of millions of dollars a year on keeping our replacement equipment in environmentally controlled situations. We replace the tires, we re-lube, we make sure everything's good to go. So if we lose those 50 tanks at battle, there are 50 more right behind them. Uh, Russia has way more equipment, or replacement equipment than us, but it's all trashed. When I was in Berlin and the wall came down, we went across and looked at what they had because we were always told, my God, if the East ever attacks, we are targeted first, or they're going to have, because they've got 1,000 batteries of artillery and they've got 1,000 tank divisions and they're all right outside our gates. Well, when we went and looked at them, they were all completely inoperable. So they maybe had one battery, which would have been good enough to kill all of us in our barracks, but it wouldn't have been enough to actually take over the West Berlin, let alone West Germany. So, and we're seeing this same behavior, and it's not surprising. At least during the Russian period, the Soviet period, there was some investment in education. Over the last 25 years, Russia has completely neglected its kids, and they have a massive brain drain. So the ones coming up are dumb, and the ones that are smart have left. Um, and so this foe is like a perfect foil for our message that we really are trying to send, which is to China. And that is to China, hey, you guys thought you were up and coming and you thought you were badasses and you thought you could play with us. But the reality is that you are a net food importer, the largest net food importer in the world. So if we don't let you import food, or if you can't due to world shortages, you will suffer. You are a net energy importer, even though you're one of the largest producers of energy in the world, mostly coal. Um, if we don't let you import energy, and then you will suffer. There's some details to that are interesting that I'd be happy to discuss, but that's the reality. And then their income, their GDP, is something like 60% based upon selling to the world. It might be even higher, 70. I can't remember the exact number, meaning that the income that they live on is not generated by their citizenry. Their citizens, even still, don't buy anything. Um, they sell to the rest of the world. So 70% or so of their GDP is based upon selling to the rest of the world. If we don't buy their stuff and the West doesn't buy their stuff, they suffer. So, and there's no way out of it for them. There are some particulars, but say they try to get oil from Iran. Well, the thing is that the United States Navy creates the world environment which allows for free trade without pirates, taking every other load. And that keeps trade low cost, etc. And so if we say, for example, as the Iranian tankers leave the Straits of Hormuz headed towards China, and we say, okay, Indian Ocean pirates, have at it. We don't have to encourage them. We just don't have to shoot them. And we just need to tell them, hey, we're not going to shoot you if you take these guys because they're not flying our world flag. They're flying the Chinese and Iranian flag. Well, their energy costs just quadrupled. One might argue that the reason they're shutting down 125 million people into their homes and then throwing tens of millions more into COVID shelters is because they're trying to reduce energy costs. Remember, we had a 40% reduction in energy usage effectively during COVID. So they realize that they can save 40% by locking down, which is, something we're not doing anymore, but they seem to be doing even in the face of a disease that's not killing a whole lot of people. They could do targeted isolation like the Great Barrington Declaration proposed. And finally, this all culminates around Taiwan. So They needed to see what the way the West would react if one country bullied its way into another country, another sovereign country. They wanted to see the analogy between the Russians going into Ukraine and how we would respond, and they wanted to apply that logic to them going into Taiwan. And they got all the wrong messages. The West will stand up and tell them to fuck off. They are at disadvantage on every aspect, with food, with energy, with GDP, and now also because of the one-child policy. Remember, that just ended in 2009. So the last kids born under the one-child policy are 13 years old. So they've got a long way to go to swallow the one-child policy, and their children aren't having children, so their demographics are terrible. They've got nobody to replace all of the people that are aging out right now that came for and during the one-child policy. So they're having a major demographic issue, and that issue is going to cause them financial problems, etc. So why would we stop shipping from China? Well, the two reasons we ship from China is because fuel costs were low. That is no longer a thing, and it will not be a thing for a long time for the rest of the world. It'll get better for us pretty quickly. The other reason was because of cost of labor. Back in the day, Chinese labor was just dirt cheap. They made crappy stuff, but they made it, efficiently and cheaply, and we were able to ship it to the rest of the world cheaply. With fuel prices up, that second part is gone, and they've increased their average wage 14 or 15 times since they joined the WTO. So we were tolerating their IP theft. We were tolerating all of that, all of the downsides of working with China, because the costs were so low. And now those costs aren't low any longer, and they're only going to get higher, because the lower your population, smaller your labor force, and the higher the cost of labor. So it can only go up. They're trouble. We, on the other hand, are a net energy exporter, or can be, at literally the swipe of a pen, the president's pen. We are a net food exporter. 40% of our GDP comes just internally, and if you go to NAFTA and the rest of the Americas, it's something like 60% of our GDP is right here at home. Additionally, Taiwan, being the largest and most advanced semiconductor production space in the world, is now building a brand new semiconductor plant, and the largest ever created. It's either in Texas or in Oregon. I can't remember which. And we are taking all of our products and standing up the infrastructure to build those products here at home, or Canada, or Mexico, or Costa Rica, or wherever. So we have nothing but bright days ahead. Our demographics are awesome. Your generation is much bigger than mine. You guys need to start having kids, or you won't have demographics behind you to sort of pay those bills. But I'm sure that will come. You guys are all live to be 100 fucking years old, because you're all lovely and healthy, and so it'll work out. But I just wanted to point out that this whole thing, the only thing we need to worry about, period, with Russia is if somebody goes crazy and launches a nuke, and most likely it'll be tactical, and so we'll probably respond heavy conventional. We can take out their entire naval fleet and all of the infrastructure needed for them to continue to wage war in an afternoon with the F-20 and F-35 fighters. It's just insane how inept they are. So you don't need to worry about that. And if they do launch an ICBM, just fucking hug your loved ones and say goodbye, because it's fucking over. And there's no need to stress about it at all. We all live in highly populated and economically important and militarily important areas, and so we're the lucky ones. We're going to get evaporated if that shit happens, but I give the chance of that so far less than one as it's to not even be measurable. The reality is that Putin can't just say, hey, bomb them, and press a button and it's over. He has to get a lot of people who have dashas and on the Black Sea, and doshes on the Caspian Sea to sign off on on that kind of nonsense, and those people would rather see their grandkids live too, because if they launch, it's over for the world. So anyway, that is not a chance. So, and you know, everything else is just positive for us. So don't stress about it. Live a happy life. Keep fucking trying. Remember, happiness is derived from purpose, and that could be work, it could be loved ones, it could be children, it could be, you know, just your phenomenal idea that you want to bring to fruition. But that purpose is what drives happiness. You know, you don't just shit happiness. So I hope this finds you well, and I love you all, and I hope you listen. It's only 12 minutes. Bye.